Yes.
So there we go, recording in progress.
Yes.
So Robyn and Kathryn, do you want to start off and just tell me a bit of the story of how do you guys know each other?
Okay, so I was born 20 years ago in a hospital in Park Lane Clinic, called Park Lane Clinic. And I was born at 28 weeks premature. So I was very unexpected to come at that time. My due date was August 29th.
Yeah.
And I was very sick as a baby. I was in the ICU for a long time, can't really tell you how long. And Kathryn and Jill came along as well. And Kathryn was also unexpected to come at that time. So Kathryn was born 2 days before me. So she went through everything I went through just 2 days before I did. So we were born 2 days apart, and we've been best friends for 20 years, I guess.
Yeah. Which is
awesome.
So. And what are some of the things that the both of you have been through as well, like the operations and the tell us your war stories as well. What have you guys?
I've had too many to count, but the major one that me and Kathryn share is a nephrectomy of the kidney, the left kidney.
Yeah.
I had to take it out because it was making me very sick.
Yeah.
So after they took that out, I got much better. And then at 6 months old, I was diagnosed with cerebral palsy.
At 6 months old, okay. And Kathryn, like your story, like what are some of the things you've been through as well?
So I had that kidney, and then I had the bleed on the brain, a grade 1, which left the 12 lesions on my brain. So my memories impacted a lot. And then I'm diagnosed as autistic, and I have ADHD as well.
And you forgot to add that you are also very naughty as well. Like, do you share that as well, Robyn?
Yes.
Yeah, cool.
I think so.
So both of you have had like quite a tough start to life as well, yeah? Like in terms of like
we have.
And Rob, like like in terms of that rough start, like how do you think that's impacted on you in terms of like your identity and your confidence and all of those things kind of growing up?
My when I started using the walker to walk, I was very aware that I was different to the other children.
Yeah.
Because I had to have support at school. So I was very aware from a young age that I couldn't do certain things.
Yeah.
And the other kids would actually say, "Hey, can I use your walker? Can I steal your walker?" And I'm like, this is not a toy. I need it. I was trying to explain to them to advocate for myself. They can't actually take it because it's my legs.
Yes.
Because I don't have any legs. So then I was trying to explain, and it became difficult for me to explain to these children why I was different.
Yeah.
So therefore I would be excluded a lot of the time because they couldn't understand that I was different.
Yeah.
And the more you try to explain, the more I think people get scared when you are different. I think they get very scared because they don't know what to do or what to say.
Yeah. So it was awkward as well, and it was like you had to explain yourself like a lot
and then say, no, you can't actually take my legs away.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, my mom did a pretty good job of advocating for me. But there comes a certain time where I think it was mostly in primary school that the school just became unwilling to listen to what I needed as a disabled person. So if you don't fit the mold, we felt that they don't listen to what you have to say, and then they push you out.
Yeah.
Slowly, they don't want to make compromise, so they push you out.
So this feeling of also like them not listening to you, and the feeling of being pushed out as well, and like no matter how much you guys spoke up or asked for things like that, feeling of being pushed out and them not listening to you. What do you think was the impact of that on you as well?
Well, I think the impact later on, because that didn't happen only once at one school. It happened at all the schools that I've been to.
Yeah.
Except when I started homeschooling, then that was different.
Yeah.
But in the final year of primary school, before I went to high school, I got severely depressed.
Yeah.
Because I was bullied a lot of the time for being different. And I couldn't go to places where the school could go. So they didn't tell me this. So then I would go and be excited to go on an outing, for example, and then have to sit in the car, which is fine because you learn to deal with it with disappointment, but it was still disappointing because it impacts your friendship circle
Of course.
and your self-esteem.
Yeah.
So then I was put on antidepressive medication.
So like really hard, Rob, as well, because like I'm hearing also you saying there was excitement to go, and excitement to participate.
Excitement to be a part of the group and the friendship circle. And then they say, no, you can't go to this, or you can't play with us, or you can't sit with us. And then I'll always remember this because I was reading and I love reading. So I was reading my book, and I read my book at lunchtime because I could sit and I could read. So then I asked them, are you okay? Are you okay with me reading? Why don't you want to talk to me, So then they said, no, you read too much. Yeah. So I think that because I was put in the special part of the school, they sort of put me in the slower part of the school with the remedial children. Yeah. Because I couldn't cope in the bigger section with my like-minded peers because of the physical barrier. Yeah. So they moved me into the remedial section, which was very bad for me because that's when it all began. And then they sort of said, no, you read too much, so we can't play with you. We can't talk to you because you're too clever. So therefore they bullied me because I was too clever. So
like really hard, Rob, too, as well. I can imagine like just incredibly hard for you to navigate that because you didn't fit in any space and like you were segregated. Yeah. And
I didn't.
And like just then getting bullied as well and like getting excluded.
That was really awful because that made me feel very inadequate and very depressed.
Yeah. So you remember that and it like sits with you as a trauma still.
It sits with me. And then I did tell the school and they said they can't do anything because they don't see anything. So I'm like, okay, are you sure you can't do something? No, they don't. They can't do anything because they don't see anything taking place.
So from that side, like it's also even when you raised it, like you weren't believed.
When you raise things, they don't listen to you.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's a general thing that people do or if because I was disabled and marginalized, they didn't want to listen.
Yeah. So like also like the adults that were there, like the people that, were involved in terms of the school, they didn't hear you, they didn't listen. And you were trying to self-advocate and trying to ask for changes. And people
self-advocating became very difficult.
Yeah.
And even in terms of the physical barriers, because at the one example is at the year-end function. Yeah. They were going to go to the theme park. So I told them, I put my hand up and I said, please, can I just talk to you because I can't go to the theme park because it's part of their policy. So then they said to me, no, sorry, because it's the majority vote and you're not part of the majority. So you are marginalized. So that made me very upset because I said, no, sorry, it's what the rest of the people want. So I said, am I not part of the classroom? Yeah. Am I not part of your group? So they said, sorry, they can't do anything to help me there. I have to stay away.
Like hugely hurtful, Rob. Like I can see even like as you talk, like the memory of that too, because you're standing up and you're talking here.
I did talk and it made me very sad that they didn't want to listen.
Yeah. So the sadness of like not being listening, like eventually landed up with you being diagnosed as being depressed and then you've been giving antidepressants as well. So instead of like looking at the system or making changes, you became like the person who had to try fix yourself or try and make yourself.
Because there comes a point where you can't fix the system anymore and you get tired. And you just want to walk away because they're so stuck, they're so rigid. In their method of doing things that they just don't want to listen to anything that wants to change. And that's like your experience there as well, like with the schooling system too. Like Kathryn, did you have anything to add to that as well? Like just
well, the schooling system was really hard for me. So I was in the same school since year 2 to year 11, halfway through, and they were just shocking. They didn't want me to do ATAR or anything. They tried to segregate me out of it, but I pushed to get into ATAR because I knew I wanted to go to university and it would be sort of a direct pathway if I did that. And then when I did do the ATAR courses, they sort of tried to sabotage me as much as they could. They took away all my supports. So I did have an EA in the classroom up until year 11. And then what else did they do?
How did you feel in your peer group as well? Because I think what Robyn's talking to is also like the exclusion, because there's different layers, guys. I think you're telling me about like the schooling system, you know, and the decisions around the barriers and all of that. But then you're also telling me about like the peer group, you know, like your sense of belonging and connection with other people there as well.
Yeah, I feel for me that was very minimized because I couldn't connect what they were doing. And as soon as you can't connect with somebody, they lose interest in trying to communicate.
It's a valid point, because like you can't physically go and attend like the functions, and you can't do the things that they're doing, or you pulled out and you put into a separate classroom as well.
Yes, and I think that's what impacts people the most. Is that feeling of being different and being isolated.
The isolation, the exclusion, the difference.
As soon as they take away your support, then you can't do as well as you normally do, and then you sort of struggle. So you know that if you get that, if you can do well, you know you can do well inside yourself. But as soon as they take away anything that can help you, your self-confidence goes down the drain immediately because you don't have the right support to assist you. But whereas you know that you can succeed if you have the right tools.
So like you can also understand why people would get so frustrated and so angry as well, because like you know that you've got the potential if you just get and like what would support look like? Like what do you think the schools could be doing like so much more of, kind of thing?
Well, the schools are uneducated about disabilities, period. So
I agree
educated themselves. I think no one understood me or any of the teachers, so they didn't understand what support to give me at all. And so they said, what did they say? They said we can give you a special pen to read out your writing. And I said, I can read fine. I need someone to actually explain it to me in the classroom. So
it's ignorance like that is debilitating.
Like you'd find ignorance, just people, as you say, like they don't understand disability, because is that
they really don't.
They're not like exposed to it, or
no. And as soon as you come into the fold as a disabled person, they don't want to educate themselves. And they say, oh, shame, or I'm sorry, or that's not helpful. Ask questions that are actually helpful.
Because that's like patronizing here, Rob. Like
if you want to empower yourself, you must ask questions and listen to people. Listen.
So listening is like really, really key, and like ask you what you need, ask that kind of stuff. What about like specifically for counselors as well? Because I'm thinking like just in terms of people that are training to be a counselor, like did you guys do any therapy? What was helpful? What wasn't helpful? And what do you think like counsellors need to know about how to support someone who's disabled?
Using the right language is key, I think.
Yeah.
Asking the person that you come into contact with, what would you like me to refer to you as?
Yeah.
How do you refer to yourself?
Nice.
And then also recognizing that the person that you're counseling will change over time that you work with them, so that you as a counselor must also adapt along with them to self-grow. Because my needs as a 7-year-old won't be the same as my needs now. So I need the counselor to understand.
Yeah.
And maybe I can teach the counselor to self-grow along with me, so we can each discover something about ourselves. But I think that the key thing that needs to happen is people need to listen, because there is not enough listening. So then listening can help people understand better.
Yeah. It makes a lot of sense what you're saying. Eh? What was useful for you, Kathryn? And what was not useful?
I think a lot of counsellors don't understand the neurodivergent brain, so they try to counsel us in a neurotypical way, and it really doesn't work for me. The amount of therapists that have told me to work on my anxiety by doing breathing, it doesn't work, because when you're like having a panic attack, you can't focus on your breathing. So I went to a recent one who just said, do your breathing. And I said, like, that won't work for me. I need other strategies. So I think to like learn how neurodivergent brains work and to like adapt how you counsel people with that.
Yeah.
And I think what Kathryn says is valuable, because we can remember that no two disabilities are the same.
Yeah.
So adapting your method of counseling is key.
Yeah.
Because each person is different, and each disability is different as well. So my cerebral palsy is not the same as somebody else's.
Yeah.
And that is very important to remember, that there's no one size fits all.
Yeah.
And each person is uniquely different. So counseling needs to be able to adapt.
Yeah.
Kathryn wants new ways to deal with her anxiety. People need to learn new ways and not just put it in a cookie cutter box and say, here you go. People need to think outside the box to help other people.
Yeah. And it's so valuable what you're saying. Is this also something you're going to study as well, hey Robyn? Am I right? You want to do psychology? Yeah.
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Because I can imagine also like just going in and seeing somebody who you know inherently also understands it would be powerful. Okay. Yeah. Is there anything else that you guys can think of, like just in terms of for counselors, like that would be useful and valuable to know?
What I thought would be valuable for me as a young adult, because I did go to counseling for a little bit, and then I didn't go anymore. But I thought that what would be useful is if you as a counselor could give me, as a young child, for example, the ways to advocate for myself in a way that people will listen.
Yeah.
So if you can give me the tools to rise up and empower myself, that will be better, because I think that my self-confidence in particular, was at a very low point, and I didn't have anybody to turn to. So I think that if a counselor can help me empower myself to self-advocate and advocate on my behalf if needs be. But I think the most important, powerful thing that you can do is give a person tools to empower themselves.
And that also implies like assuming like competence, and also assuming that the individual has like, you know, the potential to do that as well. So and I think of things too, like even you can probably remember an experience of going into education planning meeting and then being asked to leave, kind of stuff. So I don't know, Rob, if you used to go and do your meetings at school and advocate and talk there too.
No, what actually happened, that's interesting that you mentioned that. I was put in the typical section of the school, which is with there was two sections. There was the normal section with the normal kids, and then there was a remedial section.
Yeah.
So the school noticed that I wasn't coping. This was my primary school. And they just called my parents in without their knowledge. And they said, we think we should move your child to this other section of the school.
Yeah.
So without their consent, without their knowledge, they just made this choice.
Yeah. So you're talking about like decisions made about you without you kind of stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. And Kathryn, like anything you can think of too, like.
Well, a lot of people tried to make decisions about my future for me, but I was so set on my goal of like what I wanted to do that I just wouldn't allow it. So they recommended that I did like humanities and things like that in school, but I always fought back and said, no, I'm doing science because I knew that I wanted to. So I just wouldn't let anyone choose anything for me, which made me burn out really quickly because I was constantly advocating to people that didn't really care.
Yeah.
Like they didn't care. They just cared about, you know, how they just wanted like the top students on show. They didn't really care about me. They just they thought I would just comply. But then when I didn't comply, they were a bit shocked. So they did everything to sort of suppress me.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is like long term as well for you guys in terms of advocating for rights as well, because there's getting like university support and then obviously like workplace support and all of that as well.
Yes, no. But I think what Kathryn says is important because I think as a counsellor, you could also support people going through burnout from advocating. Because it is tiring because you need like sometimes you just need a good cry and a good vent, and then you can make it work. But sometimes it's important not to do that with your family members and like with the third party. So that then you can get new ideas, which is important.
And that's where
just let it all out.
Yeah, you're saying like that the counsellor needs to understand that they need to be a safe place for that as well.
Yes.
But it can be that venting and stuff. And I'm thinking of like in the schools as well, like what might be useful is if I don't know if you guys had any experience, it doesn't sound like you had, Rob, where there's actually someone who stands up for you as well, you know, like someone who's responsible, be it a chaplain or a counsellor or somebody who's looking out for kids who are marginalized as well.
Yeah, no, I didn't have any of that at school. Which was very difficult because you can only advocate to a certain point and then you get tired.
And
if it's only one set of parents or one set of people, then they don't listen to you because you're one voice. So I feel that if people are more educated and come together, then there will be something that will change. But if there is support in school for marginalized people and people that are in a situation, then they can go to that person. And you know that person will help you, then that will be good. Because school should be safe.
They should, hey? They should be safe for everyone. And I think I think of stories that you've shared or anything I've heard is like often the disabled child is the one that leaves and you do the homeschooling or you move to a different school. But it's it's the system that is not.
It's the system.
And
even with the support that we did eventually put in at our own cost for me to continue the schooling before we realized it's not going to work. They were so shocked that I couldn't go to physical places like the bathroom.
Yeah.
I remember being very embarrassed the one day that I actually wet myself because
Yeah.
I couldn't get to the bathroom in time. So I think that the schools need to realize that not everything is accessible.
Yeah.
And just because they said, oh, you'd never go to the bathroom. I told them I can't get there. Like,
Yeah.
so they need to realize that not every place in the school is accessible.
Yeah.
So they need to, I think that the counsellor could probably maybe, if they start on the journey with a child that is marginalized, they could be a voice to the school.
Yeah.
As well, because maybe that will help the child, because the parents and the counsellor could come together to be a support network for the child.
It's powerful what you're saying, Rob, because you're talking about how the child gets tired. You're talking but you burn out from having to talk all the time, and you're talking about basic things around ensuring that it's accessible and that it's everything's in place there too as well. Yeah. I'm gonna just like ask you both for just like any final comments or any final thoughts kind of thing. Been like incredibly useful. Going to be able to show.
Sorry, Kath, I'm taking up all your space. You haven't really spoken.
You've had lots of very valuable stuff to say.
No, I just feel that a counsellor is incredibly important, because I can't explain to you the one time I went to this lady. She's a lovely lady. And when I spoke to her and I was in the car afterwards, I just felt this weight that lifted off my shoulders.
Yeah.
So I do think that if the marginalized group can come into contact with the right person and the right counsellor, a weight will be lifted, and there will be so much help that can be received that they will feel much better.
Yeah.
They must, the counsellor, I think, must remember that it is key to remember that not one size fits all.
Yeah.
And that each person is unique.
Yeah.
And each person will have their own story to tell that maybe the counsellor can learn something.
Beautiful, Robyn. Yeah. Like, it's profound what you're saying, and so valid. Yeah. Anything to add, Miss Kathryn?
Don't think.
Nothing. What about a therapy dog?
Yeah.
How valuable is
therapy dog is?
Therapy dogs, very good.
Animals are incredibly important, because the amount of times my dog senses I'm stressed.
Yeah. They're powerful, because I think what the dog is doing is listening as well and tuning in,
Yes,
And
they are incredibly powerful.
And that stood out for me. Like, probably two things we're saying is like listen, and also like make sure you adapt. Every single person has their own story and understand their story kind of stuff. Okay. Thank you so much, Robyn, for the chat.
Thank you so much.
And I'll share this video with my counselling students at the university.
I hope it was helpful.
I'm sure it will be. Thank you so much, guys. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Okay. Let me stop the recording.